Builders, Mike Killen here from sellyourservice.co.uk. Have you ever wondered why a customer won't buy a marketing funnel from you? I mean, you're a good funnel builder, you know what you're doing, you're capable, you've worked with them before, and yet at some point they just decide that they don't want to buy from you. Maybe you think, I sent the proposal at the wrong time, or it's not what they wanted, or the biggest misconception is that it was too expensive, which is absolutely not the case whatsoever. So the fundamental reason why someone won't buy from you, no matter what it is ultimately they don't trust you. It's incredibly hard to get someone to buy something when they don't want it. There's a difference between wanting something and needing something, and the reality is that unless someone trusts you, they are extremely unlikely to buy from you. It's not even necessarily a case of whether they trust you, it's whether they trust that what they're going to buy is going to make a difference in their lives. We'll talk about this specifically from the viewpoint of a marketing funnel, because they're pretty sizable investments, they're pretty complicated. I'm just going to adjust that down there. They often require relatively big proposals. I think one of the biggest problems that marketing funnel builders face is they're worried that a customer is going to refuse to buy from them, and typically we think that we can boil that down to price. I'm going to argue that that's absolutely not the case. If price is ever mentioned, that's usually the first thing people go, well, that's why I don't want to buy. But price is actually, it's what we call a top level objection. It's the fastest thing for the customer to think of to be able to put into words what they are feeling. It usually comes down to one of three things. Either you haven't explained the value clearly enough to the customer, okay, which is basically your fault. How much would you pay for a single scrap of paper? Okay. It's easy, you go, well, I wouldn't pay anything for it. I said, well, what if I wanted $10,000 for this scrap of paper? I think, well, I still don't want it. I go, okay, what if it was a check for $100,000? Would you want the paper then? You go, yeah, of course I would. And you would probably be able to find $10,000 to get a check for $100,000. This is the same concept with a marketing funnel. If they don't believe, or if you haven't explained the value clear enough of what they're going to be getting, it's harder for someone to front the money. Usually when someone says, look, I just don't have the money for that kind of thing, it happens at one or two stages. One, really early on in the buying process, and they're kind of worried that you'll try and sell to them anyway. So people will say, look, I'm really not interested because I don't have the money. You go, okay, fine. I'm really not interested in trying to convince you otherwise. And the other time is just after the proposal's given and they go, oh, this is a bit more than we were expecting, or we don't have this budget for this kind of project. At the first end, when they first give it to you, I wouldn't bother arguing with them. Yeah, you can go around and you can try and convince them, but the phrase "the customer is always right" essentially means that they are not going to become a customer if you prove them wrong. Even if they are wrong, even if they could afford it, and even if you are willing or able to create value for that $10,000, $25,000, $250,000 investment to their business, they're still going to feel like they were wrong, and therefore they're not going to become a customer. That's what that means. On the other side, when someone says to you, oh, I don't really have the money, and it's at the proposal stage, you clearly haven't articulated why it's worth that amount. So that's one of the reasons. You haven't articulated why it's worth that amount. The second reason is that you haven't qualified them well enough. And that's ultimately down to you. You know, again, that's probably one of your mistakes, having not asked the customer how much money they're willing to spend on this project. If you don't have an idea of their budget or the resources they have available, it's entirely on you when they come back with saying, oh, I don't have that kind of money. I was expecting it to be $200 or $500. I've only recently experienced that myself when I sold a customer all the way through, went through the process. They seemed really happy, ecstatic almost, that we were going to be sending them a proposal. I was like, why are they so into this? And it turns out that I had never asked them what their budget was. I assumed I had done, but I'd never written it down. I went back through the notes when they said, oh, this is too expensive for us, we're not interested. And I was like, that's my fault. What they wanted was like a 50 grand package, and I think they had a budget of like $3,000 they said they could put together. A customer who you have found out the budget for, or you do know what their resources are, and they say to you that's too expensive, usually they'll try and come back with a number. You need to try and get a number from them, but they'll also probably have that number. The difference between $25,000 and $30,000 is negligible, frankly. The difference between $1,500 and $2,000 is pretty negligible. So whenever anyone kind of questions anything around 20% of the price, I'm usually hesitant to bow to them, because I think you probably have got the money. But that then goes back to our first point. I need to do more to demonstrate what that value is going to bring to their business and what the investment is going to be to their business. And that's kind of where we let ourselves fall down a little bit. The third thing that happens is sometimes people are never going to get it. Simple as that. Sometimes businesses, customers, people, they're never going to get it. It could be the most outstanding offer in the history of mankind with a really good return rate, and you've proven stuff before, but they're unwilling to pay because they're just never going to get it. And that's fine. That's usually entirely their own psyche, and there's absolutely nothing you can do to convince them otherwise. So frankly, you should just move on. But in the meantime, it might be an idea to try and qualify those customers out beforehand, again, by asking them their budget. That usually does it as well, and what their expectations are. Where a lot of this kind of boils down to is a lot of people ultimately believe it's about trust, and they think that trust can only be shown through your portfolio. If you've ever got to the stage where a customer is hesitant to buy, and they think, oh, I'm not entirely sure if I want to buy just yet, they might ask you for a portfolio or previous work. What they're actually asking is, show me something that proves you've done this. And pro tip, by the way, doesn't have to be a portfolio. And that's a really important point. In order to grow trust with people, you don't have to produce a portfolio for them. I'm not saying that as like a, like a point of order, like you don't have to prove anything. What I mean is a portfolio is not the only way to demonstrate trust and reliability in your own process. The easiest way is using testimonials or case studies, frankly, writing up a one-page case study. If anyone reaches out to me below in the comments section and asks, do you have a case study template? I'm sure I've got one knocking around somewhere because we use it, so I must have the template in my Google Docs or something. That's a really easy way for you to do that. The tricky part comes when you've never done it before, right? So everything seems stacked against you when you've never done it before. You don't have a previous portfolio piece, okay? Maybe you haven't had the time or the resources to create some like demo or example sites. Personally, I would just invest in something like Beaver Funnels. Yes, full disclosure, it's our own software, it's our own plugin, but create 5 or 6 different funnels and just have those set up as demo sites that you can use to demonstrate what it is that someone could be getting. Maybe you don't have any previous customers at all or anything like that, but the fastest way for you to generate trust in a business, in a customer, for them to believe that you can deliver to them, is to write really high quality long form blog content. I can't tell you how many times this kind of 2 or 3 pieces of long form blog content have really saved us. Even when we have got no previous experience working on a particular project, I know that we can do it. You know, we've got all the processes in place. We've played around with it. Maybe we've done it for a couple of partner sites and we don't really have them set up as a portfolio. But when we write up a really high quality, long form piece of blog content on a very specific topic, including our niche, including their problem, including their solution, I would happily give that to them. And we have never had a customer ask us for a portfolio. This is a really interesting piece. Customers now don't ask for our portfolios because we send them these blog posts that we've written, and they go, well, obviously only an expert or someone who knows what they're talking about would spend that long writing a piece of content like this, writing a high quality, killer, really informative, long form piece of blog content. It completely positions you as the expert and they're more likely to buy. So the 2 reasons that people don't buy ultimately boil down to they don't trust you, or the budget's out of whack. And even when we talk about budget, it's usually because they don't trust you. If a business trusts you and truly trusts you, they'll find extra money. And we've increased people's budgets. We've said to them, look, you said you got 20 grand. This is 30,000, 35,000 minimum. They have found that extra 15 grand because they trust what we'll deliver. The reason they trust what we'll deliver is because of our blog content, okay? Because of our high quality long form blog content, because of our sales process, because of the time that we've taken to sit down with them. Yes, we do have a portfolio, and yes, we have example sites, and yes, we have demo sites, but no one's ever asked for them. What they ask for is kind of how it's going to affect them and how it's going to affect their business. And what's really interesting is our first ever big project was one off the back of a blog post. Someone else sent that blog post into like a referral of theirs and said, hey, you've got to check these out. I know you guys are looking at the time it's like a membership site, a membership funnel. These guys have literally just written about how to generate more email subscribers for a membership site. You should talk to them. And that's how we found our first project. And like I said, we didn't have a portfolio or any previous customers, didn't have any testimonials. Case studies wise, we have also written up case studies for businesses that we've worked with, and nice and short. It just talks about where they were, what we did and where they are now. Nice and high level, just 5 bullet points for each. We said, oh, they had 1,000 subscribers, they had no customers, they had 5 products, revenue of $100,000 a year. What we did to them was implement an automation system, sales automation system, lead segmentation, traffic driving, and growing their email list. Now they've got a list of over 10,000 subscribers. They've got 1,000 recurring revenue paying subscribers, and their revenue is at $250,000. Just that case study, you can see how simple and high level that is, handed over to them, was really, really easy for them to read up on. And frankly, I think more useful than a portfolio. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching. What I'll do is, at the moment, I'll put up a couple of extra videos, one on your pricing strategy and how to make sure that your pricing strategy is okay in comparison to what people are going to be expecting in the market. And I'll put another video probably about running your funnel business and how to do it properly. In the meantime, guys, I am Mike from SayYourService.co.uk. Keep building those funnels.